welcome to Film Ireland podcast. I'm Paul Farren. I had the pleasure of talking to Ivan Kavanagh about his new film Never Grow Old, which opens on the 23rd of August. Do go and see it. Ivan, I'm going to get you to give me the synopsis for this film because I'll only ruin it.
Okay.
So tell us what Never Grow Old is about.
I'm terrible at this. It's about a undertaker, an Irish undertaker in 1849 in America, and he has a family, and they live in a town called Galway, which is on the California Trail. And he's doing okay, you know. Business is just about getting by, you know, just about feeding his family. But during this time, the California gold rush is going on, so he's itching to get to California to make his fortune like so many others did, you know. And but his wife wants to stay. She's settled there. She's happy there. One night, these outlaws come to town, led by Dutch Albert, played by John Cusack. And suddenly, the body count starts to rise in the town. And as the body count starts to rise, so do the undertaker's profits. And so he has this moral dilemma then, and it's only a matter of time before the violence comes to his own doorstep, you know. And
to find out more, go and see the film.
Yeah, that'd be great. Especially on the cinema, because I really made this for the widescreen, you know, experience, cinema.
Yeah, a lot of people don't seem to understand that. They think that their screens are big enough. I'm guilty of it myself for films I know that I've seen on television, and I haven't made that extra effort when it was out to just get it in that place, in that mood. Yep. And some films require also not just the big screen, but the lack of distraction of your home.
That's actually absolutely, and the way we model this film, the look of the film on films from the 70s, like McCabe and Mrs. Miller and Heaven's Gate, which was 80, but it was filmed in the 70s. And so it needs to be seen in total darkness, you know, so you can be enveloped in the atmosphere of it, you know. And the night in this film should feel like real night, you know. And so it needs to be seen on the big screen, and also with the sound loud, you know.
One amazing thing, I just to get this out of the way, is you didn't shoot this in America.
No, we shot it between Luxembourg and Connemara, Uachtarart.
I take it most of your main exterior locations were in Ireland.
Yeah, all of the town stuff was in Ireland, and all of Patrick's, which is the main character's house and cottage or log cabin and barn, was in Luxembourg, and all the cemetery stuff as well.
It was beautiful. It looked amazing, and Connemara really passed for that kind of muddy West that we know that crept more into later 60s and 70s American films.
I love
the
that
first
stuff.
one that came to mind was Dirty Little Billy with Michael J. Pollard. I don't know if you saw it.
I've actually missed that one.
I think you'd like that one.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get. I haven't seen it in a million years, but that was all. I always remember the reading about the director saying that he wanted to create like the interiors were like a weird little womb stuck inside a muddy.
Wow, I like that.
Muddy exterior.
That's nice.
And mud would be a key thing in this film. That kind of grungy kind of atmosphere you created with that location.
That came out of because it took so long to get off the ground, you know. I began writing it in 2007, and it didn't take that long to write, maybe 2 or 3 years, and I kept rewriting it over the years, but nothing major, you know. And but the financing, it almost came together 2 or 3 times, but it fell apart like films do, and especially one as ambitious as this, you know. And but in that time, I was able to make Our Wonderful Home and The Fading Light and The Canal, and do a lot of writing as well. But anyway, in those 10 years, I was able to do so much research, you know. So I really got lost in the research, you know, and I collected thousands of photographs from archives from all over the world and from online as well. And I started to see the similarities between some parts of America, especially the Nebraska and the Connemara landscape, that rocky, hilly, muddy landscapes, you know, barren landscapes. And I thought, why not? Why can't we do it? Especially for a Western like this, which is really claustrophobic, you know?
Well, yeah, because our Wild West kind of generic Wild West comes from California.
Yeah.
Which is just one small state
Desert,
in America.
Yeah. That's true.
And it took a long time to break that mold, and all the TV experts, all the cowboys at home in their sitting rooms. Yeah, that's not the Wild West.
It's amazing how in the public's general public's consciousness, the Western has become the spaghetti Western. That's what they think of now. They don't think of the classic John Ford Westerns anymore. They think, because I've been saying this about this over the years, and they've always referenced spaghetti Westerns.
But do you think it's a younger generation at the moment, more vocal, and our older forebears who again would have raised us on a few Westerns don't talk about it so much? And
I think so. And I think it's a matter of going back to the source.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm still a fan. I mean, it's really interesting looking at that growth that this 60s and European westerns achieved.
Yeah.
Event like the German westerns of the 60s were a little bit closer to what you're doing in some ways, but more romantic.
Yeah.
Because you're still very dark and very dark drama underneath.
I do like some spaghetti westerns now. There's a great one, The Great Silence with...
I have it on DVD at home waiting for me.
It's amazing.
It came from South Korea. That's how where I had to get it.
It's amazing. I have it on DVD as well. And,
I'm a big Leone fan, I have to say now. I won't deny, but haven't denied it. There'll be a fight. Yeah. But no, that is a beautiful one. And again, another one that reminded me of yours because of the nature and the location it went for, which is snow and mountains. Yeah. And for Corbucci as well, I think that is him at a higher level than I've ever seen.
Well, the first Django film was a very muddy film as well, you know?
That's right,
Yeah. That was the first time he ever seen that. Although I'd say he got it from, and I got it from, the main inspiration for it was that the town in Shane.
Yes.
Not the interiors now. I'm always a bit thrown by the interiors in Shane because they really seem like a studio to me. But the exteriors, that town is amazing. The attention to detail there is amazing. It's straight from the photographs that I've seen, you know, and the muddy streets and that amazing scene when Elijah Cut Jr., he doesn't want to get his new boots dirty, so he tiptoes across the street to the bar, and Jack Palance blocks his way. He says, "Where are you going?" And he ends up shooting him, and the indignity of poor Elijah Cook as he flies back into the mud. And
that's beautiful. It's a beautiful, terrible scene.
Oh yeah, and it's a beautiful scene, and that really stuck for me from when I was a child, you know.
There's a wonderful similar moment in your own film with the poor little card player caught up against Cusack.
Yeah.
That was a nice little tense moment there. I like it.
Yeah.
Again, if you want to know about it, go and see it. But back again. So your influences. What was the kernel influence for you to write this?
It was actually I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. He was an actor a long time ago, and he saw himself as more of a leading man type, like a Clint Eastwood. You know.
Rugged,
handsome,
silent.
Yeah. But he wasn't. He was more of a character actor. But he hated that I said that. But he later learned that and he made a good living from it, you know. But anyway, I said, joking, I said, I see you as the Weasley Undertaker character who runs out and grabs the bodies in, and then someone throws him money and everyone despises him. And there's always one in almost every Western, you know. Spaghetti westerns, classic westerns, everywhere.
But they kind of really made a lot out of it. The coffin became a real symbol in spaghettis.
Absolutely, and what was that? Django Kill is one where he has this Gatling gun inside the.
That's right, yeah.
Inside the coffin, I think.
Is that a Franco Nero one as well?
That's right.
And then there's the one with Terence Hill where they buried them and they're all reborn because they haven't actually been killed.
That's right, yeah. I like that one. But anyway, as I went home, and I began to think, well, what if this guy was a real guy with a real family? And I started to think, I've never seen that in a Western, you know, that's a good take on it. And I wrote it over a weekend of treatment, and I sent it to Simon Perry, who used to run the Irish Film Board, and he said that he loved it. So I submitted it, and I got first draft funding, I think, and I went on from there. That was the kernel of the idea, but the main inspiration came from those photographs. And just before we started filming, I gave all those thousands of photographs and research material to all of the crew, the HODs, you know, and I said, don't watch any Westerns. Let's go back to the source, and we might come out with something a little bit original, or something we haven't seen before, you know, or even moments of something we haven't seen before, you know.
Yeah, it's a strange thing as well, because the Western is so imbued in us as little viewers, even as kids, we don't even know it half the time. Yeah. But those are weird little values that were floating around our heads. Yeah,
and it leaked into different genres as well, like science fiction. Star Wars is a Western, basically.
It's living in science fiction at the moment. Science fiction is the new Western.
Yeah, and in Walter Hill, he, no matter what genre he was doing, he always seemed to be making a Western. Like Southern Comfort is a Western of sorts, and I love Walter Hill's stuff. Yeah.
Extreme Prejudice would be a great example. That was his Sam Peckinpah movie.
Yeah.
That's a gem.
And I love the Long Riders.
Yeah, I was just talking about it today.
Oh, that opening of it, I don't know what it is. This little slow-mo, the credit sequence of a slow motion shot of all the guys riding towards the camera, and they have that beautiful music. There's something always makes me, I don't know, really melancholic.
Who scored
watching
that?
it.
Was that
Wright Cooder?
Cooder was
Beautiful score. Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, and again, what is it about the Western now? It's not going away. Thankfully, it's proven hard to kill.
Yeah,
and I think, as you say, the values. If you don't see it with the cowboy hats and the horses, the values are still there. Very much an American thing.
Yeah,
and the frontier mentality is still ingrained, for the negative to some degree, in the psyche of Americans. But what do you think that the Western still managing to just tentatively hold on?
I think you can explore. There are usually simple morality tales, a lot of them, but within that you can explore an awful lot about contemporary society. And the American West was it was like human beings at the most extreme. They were out of reach of any real law, and any law that there was, it was really extreme. It was kind of Old Testament law they had in the West, an eye for an eye, and still there in the American justice system, definitely.
Yeah, and this love of the outlaw is always a kind of funny one, because they're the ones that they would rather. It's the psycho outlaws and the hero outlaws.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows a little bit of history about the ranchers and that know that they were the worst outlaws of all.
Absolutely.
They just managed to turn it into business.
Yeah.
And I think that's the weird, what would you say, contradiction that Americans have in their heads all the time.
It's amazing. Some of them, I think, they still think they're in the Wild West. I mean, didn't George Bush go to war with Iraq to revenge his daddy against Saddam Hussein? Yeah, it was a classic Western plot,
Yeah, I think,
but on a massive,
very true,
crazy scale,
Tell me this: it must have been a big deal to be able to attract Emile, Hirsch, and Cusack to the project.
Yeah. Well, who came on board first? I think it was John Cusack came on board first. Yeah,
he's an underrated actor. He's had.
He has been lately.
Yeah,
I think that's because he went off the right, and I think he did it by choice. I think he became, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he became disillusioned maybe with Hollywood or something, I'm not sure. But he kind of made under the radar films and he wasn't maybe given any challenge to give his best, But he really responded to the script, and he really responded to my way of working as well, which I think is why we got on so well and why I was able to get such a good performance from him, and such a committed performance as well. I give character histories to all of the actors, every single one of them. So they have the history of the character from the moment the character is born to the moment the film starts. And I gave one to John Cusack and Emile Hirsch, all of them. And but John came back with a book, like a giant notebook full of his own ideas, expanding on what I had written, And that's the first time an actor has ever done that. And I thought that was fantastic, And we'd be up until 2:00 in the morning before a shoot. And we'd be discussing the ideas, and he was so into it. It was amazing. It was really a great collaboration,
But it's a great testimony to your own ideas, and to feel an interest from another actor, from an actor, is a brilliant thing.
Absolutely.
I was reading John Berman talking about Richard Burton in Heretic.
Oh,
It was quite the opposite.
Yeah.
He said
really?
he was ultimately professional, but the poor man was a major alcoholic, and he was on the drying. He said he was just dead from the...
You can feel it in the performance as well in the Heretic.
Oh yeah, he said if you look at it, he's saying the words, but he has no commitment whatsoever. Yeah.
It's a strange film, that, isn't it, Heretic?
Yeah,
it has a moments of
John makes
amazing
some great visuals. Yeah. And it's got a Morricone score.
It's great, Morricone score. Yeah, it's great.
The man could even at his worst, he was at his best.
Amazing. He just went totally wild for that one,
But is Cusack's background method, or where is he?
I don't know.
As an actor?
We never discussed that, but I felt like it was. We were emailing recently, and he was the film opened in France, and he was really delighted with the reviews there, because they were really intellectualized the film and saw the political aspects of it as well, which he loved. And anyway, we were talking about being on set, and he said it wasn't always easy for him, because he felt he was bringing the character home with him, and people on set felt like he was like he couldn't approach him. He felt like detached, and I think he probably was in character for the whole lot, because on the very last day, he just that all just melted away, and people couldn't believe how nice and charming he was, and suddenly he was John again. You know what I mean?
Well, the character, Dutch Albert, he comes across to me as someone who actually kind of doesn't even like himself.
No, he's totally disillusioned and tired of everything. Yeah, and I think Dutch Albert is looking for someone to kill him.
He's like the most. When I watched it, what struck me was that he was probably the most honest person in the entire film.
That's so funny, because John, me discussed that. He always tells the truth. He's always honest, no matter how horrible.
And he brought a lot of humor to it as well. I thought there was more laughs in there than you got from the audience. I think everyone. I laughed.
If you had to seen me, I'm laughing all the way through it. I think John is hilarious in it. I mean, the humor was written in there, but what he did was something brilliant, I thought. And I wrote the character as something a bit bigger, performance-wise. No, he saw it as a more softly spoken character, almost to a whisper, which worried the sound guy no end, I can tell you. But,
okay, yeah.
But the humor he really got, you know.
Yeah, he's like a puppet that can see the strings.
Yeah, and I think he's taken the piss with Patrick all the way through it, you know.
Because there's all that very tense scene with the wife of the guy that he's been after, and she wants to become a prostitute. Yeah. She's been pushed out by the religious types in town. Yeah, and it was something in that. I was like, you really are kind of trying to almost not judge him until he goes and pushes to a certain point.
And then he says that horrible thing.
Yeah. And then you go, oh. And yet you feel he knows exactly where everything's going to go. Yeah. That he is. But again, we should go and see it for themselves. And
where that came from, because at the end of that, he says, "Thanks for coming. Have a good day." Yeah. And that came from, I remember I made a short film years ago, and I got into slam dance, and that was my first trip ever to America in 2003, I think it was. And I couldn't get over how polite the Americans were, you know? Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. So unbelievably polite. I thought these people are great. And then you go back to the motel and you turn on the news, and the local news is on, shooting here, shooting. They're killing each other all over the place, you know? And I'm thinking, they must smile and say, "Thank you, ma'am," just before they kill you, you know? Or "Thank you, sir," whatever.
But my girlfriend's a comedian. She has this routine where she goes on about the Yankees. "I love you, ma, I love you, dad." Yeah. He says, sure, they must love each other as much as they love shooting each other.
That's great.
But there is that weird thing. It's like, I was funny. I was talking to a friend earlier. We were talking about he's working with Americans on a film, and he said they couldn't get over the sorry thing. We said, we're always saying sorry.
We're always apologising.
And he said, yeah. And then they turn around and go, "Well, it's okay. Well, what are we doing now, sir?"
Sir, yeah. I think it's kind of nice as well, but I was very unnerved by the juxtaposition of violence and politeness, you know, and that went straight into the script, you know. Yeah,
it's like nobody seems to mean anything by it. They're just doing it.
Yeah. It's just business. And the way John saw it was Dutch Albert was a personification of capitalism. He's the pure, unfeeling capitalism, you know, and everything's about a money exchange, you know.
Yeah, but that's where he saw honor and loyalty was all to do with the dollar.
Yeah, he saw this is just a business transaction. You know, we kill a couple of friends, but we give them an honourable burial because they once were friends, you know.
Yeah, which is again a key early scene. We'll let them say for themselves in the audience, which I love, by the way. Yeah, there's something about that entrance at the start of that scene which they'll have to see for themselves. Yeah. We keep them teased. Yeah. But Emile Hirsch now, a different kind of actor, or
more instinctual.
Yeah,
where John liked to discuss everything, every nuance, every line, everything. He wanted to know why he was saying it, which is fine.
But they're fair questions, especially because they're a good challenge to you as the owner of the story and the way of telling the story. So
yeah, I mean,
if you don't know the answer to those questions on a certain level, then you know you wouldn't even trust yourself.
Exactly, and all actors are different. So I'm willing to go to any lengths to get the performance I want from an actor, you know. And I've seen that with other actors, but not to that extent, I have to say. Mm. Whereas Emile, if you discussed it with him too much, I found that he lost it. He would overthink it and overanalyze it, and all the spontaneity would go. So I wouldn't discuss any motivation with Emile. I just let him go.
And how did that work in scenes where Cusack and Hirsch were together?
Well, very quickly. I mean, it was a huge cast. This is the biggest cast I ever had. You know, to say there's three main actors, and the main actors were Cusack, Emile Hirsch, and Déborah François, who played Hirsch's wife. And three of them couldn't be further apart in their methods, you know. Cusack was totally, once he discussed it, every scene was different. He would improvise constantly. I gave him that freedom, you know. So improvise around the script. So he would never be the same structure, always different, you know. So Emile would be always to the script and always consistent, but always good, you know, always something interesting. And I'd be able to give him subtle little changes. Whereas Déborah was always good on the first two takes. And after that, she became weaker, I found, you know, less real and spontaneous. So I'd always shoot her first. and then Cusack. And I could spend all day shooting Cusack sometimes, getting so much footage, you get carried away.
It's a real key thing to know, isn't it, as a director, early in the day, who's the strongest, not strongest or weakest, but the different approaches
when they're strongest.
and where the energies go. Because a lovely thing a director said one time, which I loved, was that he said you can say the line a million times, but your eyes won't say the line a million times. Yeah. And that's very important, because if it's not going on in the eyes, the mouth could be saying anything you like.
But John as well, he was so generous as well. He was sometimes do stuff that I wish he had done on camera to other actors just to get the reaction out of them, you know. So sometimes I wished I had 2 cameras always with him. Yeah. Because sometimes I miss stuff that was off camera, you know.
Well, what were the kind of challenges then with, say, those 3 different approaches, and then keeping the momentum going with everybody and that energy alive, especially, you know, I mean, you've got a good cameraman there. As far as I know, you worked with, is it Pierce 3 times now, was it?
No, twice. Yeah, maybe doing the next one as well.
So you have a nice relationship there. So he knew what you were like. And again, you had a very strong style that allowed for a lot of freedom for the actors as well.
A lot of freedom, yeah.
Yeah.
I usually do takes on the script and off the script. And if I trust the actor, I allow them to take it anywhere they want to go, you know. I don't know, you just learn it. It's just pure instinct, you know. You know who to shoot first and who to leave last, you know. I could always leave Emile last because he was consistently good.
So it's kind of it's a schizophrenic thing that directors develop over many projects.
I think so. It's just instinct, you know. And then sometimes if an actor wasn't getting it in a scene opposite John Cusack, I could whisper it in John Cusack's ear and tell him to say something to get a real reaction out of them, and he was fantastic at that, you know. Fantastic. He could really intimidate them if he wanted to, you know, by just throwing them completely. And I would get that reaction that I wanted instantly. He was amazing at that.
How long were you shooting for on the exteriors?
It was mostly, the whole film was nearly all exteriors, you know, to be honest.
70% at least, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, even the interiors were reliant on exterior understanding.
That's because they were real buildings. There was no sets. It was John Leslie, who was an absolutely most incredible production designer I ever worked with. I said to him, I want to be able to go in and out of buildings with the camera, you know.
So was the saloon a studio or a structure?
An actual structure.
Fantastic.
Like where the bedrooms were really upstairs. It was real wood. We actually burned it down.
I had a feeling you did.
It was just, and it was what I always wished for. It went through, over the 10 years, people were saying, we're going to have to shoot some in studio. You can't shoot it all on location. But somehow it all worked out to what I wanted in the end, you know. And I was able to shoot in basically a real town and a real log cabin, and it made all the difference for the actors, you know. It felt like they were living there, you know.
And was it a winter shoot or?
Yeah, it was November, December of 2017. It was absolutely freezing, bitter cold, you know. And the actors in period costume as well, period shoes, they were ice cold, you know.
They must have loved you.
Oh, yeah. The poor crew, they had to dig the cables out of the mud. And
how many weeks?
7 weeks.
7 weeks. That's not bad now.
It's pretty good for these days.
Yeah.
You know?
And so, have you got westerns out of your system now?
No, I was just thinking. I met Pierce today. Pierce McGrail, the DP, who's amazing, by the way. He's just so talented. That guy.
Beautiful
you know?
work.
Beautiful. And this is the best I think he's done so far. You know. I was just saying, I'm itching to do another one, the western after this. You know, I didn't think I would be because I was so exhausted after the shoot. But I've been jotting down some ideas, and I'm thinking.
That's funny. That's something Corbucci used to say.
Really?
He used to say, I say to myself, I want to do a western, and I said, no. I want to do a story about a man with a house and a car, and then something happens, and he said the great silence of one of those films. That something happens, it elevates everything for us, and I go, I'll do another western.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you can take it anywhere as well. The idea I have is takes it in a completely different direction than Never Grow Old, but I'll see how it goes. It might come to nothing, but I'm going to keep pursuing it and see what's like.
But Ivan, you're a filmmaker now for God knows how many years. What was it, 15, 20 years?
20 years now.
20 years.
I think I made my short. Well, I was making short films at home when I was a teenager, just with a high-8 camera.
Yeah.
And I was editing using 2 VHS machines together.
I used to do that, yeah.
And where I came from, it was like the idea of becoming a filmmaker was like you might as well say you want to be an astronaut or something. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, nobody in the school I went to college, or you just got a job. So it all. I mean, I made a short film just with some friends, and they said you should send it to festivals, and I had never even thought of that, And then I think it won an award at that, and I just snowballed from there.
Which one was that? Was it what was it called?
I can't even remember. It was so long ago.
It was before Tin Can. I think Tin Can was your first feature, wasn't it?
No.
Your second feature?
Third feature, that was.
Third, oh,
yeah.
Geez.
I did the first 3 self-financed.
That's right, yeah. Which I wanted to talk to you about because I mean that's a big ask. I've done it myself once on a feature.
Yeah.
And I would do it again.
Yeah.
Though I say I wouldn't.
Yeah.
That's that thing. It's been a long time now, I have to say.
Yeah.
How did you find it? I mean, did you have a good support mechanism around you? Was it a good like-minded people or?
Yeah, absolutely. That's essential,
That's the hardest part,
yeah,
isn't it?
And it's also knowing what your strengths are when you're shooting with a small crew and with no budget, how to shoot films like that, and know the technology as well, know what's best. I was shooting with a 3-chip digital camera back then. I don't know what they use now, for low-end cameras. But I mean,
probably a phone.
Yeah, you'll find there was a lot of close-ups in my early films because close-ups looks always better with 3-chip digital than wide shots.
Yeah. And black and white could be a helper if you were stuck.
Definitely, I'm Tin Can Man, and I made another one called The Solution, which was black and white as well. And it was actually The Solution, which was my second feature, which Simon Perry, again from the Irish Film Board, who used to be the head of the film board way back. He saw it at a festival in Paris, and
okay.
I had never applied for any funding or anything like that. I had no producer. I was my own producer. Well, saying no producer, there was no money basically. I bought all the equipment myself. So,
you were the producer. The thing is, because you're doing it in such a strange way, you don't feel like you deserve the credit of a producer, but you do.
I suppose you did. Yeah, I did produce it. Yeah, literally.
You made the fucking thing.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, he saw it at a festival, and his secretary or assistant called me in for a meeting with the Irish Film Board. And I remember I had never applied for funding ever, and I had looked at the funding application forms, and I said, I don't know what half of this means. What is a proper budget? I don't know.
You just get dizzy looking at them.
Yeah, but anyway, he called me in and he said to me, I loved your film. I thought it was great. And what do you want to do next? And it was like totally like a dream come true, And I had no ideas. And I said, I'll have a think about it. And I went home and I wrote something over the weekend. I gave it to him on the Monday. He said, great, find yourself a producer. I didn't know any producers. And then out of the blue, there was an article about me in Film Ireland, I remember.
Yeah.
And these producers, Dominic, Wright and Jacqueline, Kerrin, Ripple World Pictures, had read it, and they contacted me out of the blue.
Was Ted the editor of Film Ireland at that time?
I can't remember.
Ted
It's a long time ago.
And
so they became the producers of that film, which was Our Wonderful Home, and then they became the producers of the Western, which I've just made. So it all fell together,
It's kind of full circle.
Yeah, full circle.
Was it Park Pictures did films?
Canal,
the Canal.
And I'm doing my next one with Park again.
Oh, great.
Yeah. It's called Sun. It's a psychological horror film. Shooting in America.
So, I mean, again, it's something that I recommend to people. If you want to learn how to do it, go and do it.
People always ask me, well, or how did you do it, or what would you recommend? But if you read enough biographies and stuff, everyone does it differently.
Yeah.
For some people doing it the way I did it, it would be a nightmare. It wouldn't work out. And some people need to structure a film school. I know I would have been lost in that environment because I'm not a naturally.
Did you do any college work at all?
No, none.
Yeah. So you basically just made it.
Yeah. So being self-taught worked for me, but I wouldn't recommend it to everyone.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I still, if you have the passion, it's going to mark whether you've got the passion to continue with it.
I think I mean...
And some people want to work within a system where they're just doing a job for somebody, but you're a kind of auteur in that regard that you're generating your work. I think you may have done some co-writing, have you? I don't even know.
No, never.
But you just do your own writing.
Do my own
and
stuff,
yeah.
Actually, I've done some ghostwriting when I was hard up a while back, but I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah, because do you feel that do you have a good creative control then with your work, or would you be listen to other people? Well, obviously you listen to other people, but
saying it out, I mean, I know what I want.
The book stops with you.
Always.
Yeah.
Everything's filtered through me, and everyone who works for me knows that. However, I'm totally open to ideas, and any filmmaker who isn't is a fool, I think, A
total fool.
I mean, part of a director's job is to surround themselves with very talented people and the right people for each project,
That's one of the main ones.
Yeah. And you want these talented people's ideas, Now, I reserved the right to say no on every idea that they bring to me, or say yes to the ones I like, you know. And
another great thing about filmmakers, you don't have to say no immediately.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can say, okay, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
And I'll have a good in the edit suite.
I'll never say that.
Well, no, you say in your head.
Yeah. Maybe to a difficult actor, I might say that.
But it's because I said that's one thing that I like about filmmaking is that nothing's done till it's done. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not finished until. In fact, you know the old cliche: it's not finished until the audience are sitting there watching it.
Absolutely, and I find they always say, "Well, you're finished writing it now. You're ready to shoot." But I feel no, I'm still writing when it's shooting, and I'm still writing when it's editing as well.
Of course.
I mean, the film is constantly evolving, and you'll find that the film will tell you what it wants to be. It's a very strange thing. Sounds ridiculous, but that's what it feels like, you know?
Oh, yeah, but because you've put that amount of work in it to begin with.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't have that conversation with you later.
Yeah.
Because you'd be scrambling to find out what the hell it is.
Yeah, and also as well, when you're editing, sometimes I found, well, the script for the Western, for example, went through a lot of drafts. Now, when you're dealing with different financiers over the years, sometimes they ask for a scene to be put in for explanation, say. But I always know that scene is never going to be in the finished. But so I've no qualms about putting a scene in because I know it'll never be in the film, you know.
Yeah.
And it was funny with Never Grow Old. Every scene that was put in as an afterthought by, say, financiers asked for more explanation or something, it ended up gone in the edit. Because everyone, when they finally see it, they see, oh, we really don't need that, you know. I don't know what my point is, but
no. It's just kind of, as you said, you're dealing with. From my question, which was about like other people having a say in what's going on.
Yeah.
That's they might be financing it. As you say, that they're worried about clarity as much as
people are always worried about clarity. You know, especially financiers.
It's kind of overrated clarity, I think.
Yeah, and people want ambiguity. They may not know they want it, but they want some form of. If you have all the answers at the end of a film,
yeah,
then you'll never want to watch the film
again. There's clarity
and
there's confusion, and they're two different things.
That's true. Yeah.
And people confuse them.
That's true.
I'd love clarity when I wake up in the morning. That'd be great.
That's very rare now. Yeah.
But tell me this: selling a Western must have been tough. It's a funny genre at the moment. As we were saying to you before we started, this was that it's been some interesting kind of. They're close to the early 1970s Westerns. We've had the Sisters Brothers, Damsel, The Wind, which you rightly pointed out is a remake of a Swedish filmmaker silent movie.
Yeah.
And I could think of one or two others, but the names don't come to me. And the word art house gets tagged onto these, which I don't like the term because it kind of frightens people away. It's the only reason I don't like it.
I hate the term art house horror.
It's even worse. That's the worst one,
because
isn't it?
It's like you're ashamed of making a horror film or something.
Posh horror film.
Oh, I'm too good to make a horror film, you know.
Oh no, it's art house.
Yeah, I think if you're going to make a horror, make a fucking horror film, you know.
But was that one of the battles that hey, look at the Western? How long did it take to convince them that the Western was going to go places?
Well, the script that's the thing with this script. It always attracted financiers. It always did, you know. And for different reasons, it just always fell apart. You know, it was almost a Hungarian. Irish co-production. I came very close, and I think there was some sort of scandal with the Hungarian Film Fund, and they fell apart or something. And that made a
great place to shoot a Western.
This is a long time ago now. This is 10 years ago, maybe. And then Mickey Rourke was attached at one point, and Damian Lewis was attached to play Patrick, and it was going to be a Italian Irish co-production, but for some, I can't remember the exact reason, but that fell apart as well. It was never because of the script, because they found the script difficult, or because they found, making a Western is risky or anything like that. That never came into it. It was always for like 100,000 of the financing fell apart. Something very small thing. But you know what it's like when you're making films. These things happen all the time, you know. And but then it finally came together with the Luxembourg Film Fund's help and the Screen Ireland and stuff. And it felt like the right time for me as a director. I'm so glad it took 10 years because I don't think I would have been ready for it 10 years ago.
That's really interesting, yeah. So the right film got made, basically.
At the right time.
At the right time.
Definitely did. And I felt like I was able to use everything I'd learned over those years. You had so many problems, you know, with the weather and the mud and the huge cast and the Hollywood stars and the huge crew and going between 4 different countries. And I felt like I was totally ready for it, you know.
Yeah, well, I really hope it works out well. I hope, and I look for. When are you shooting your next film?
Well, it's been pushed back twice. This is the nature of the game, you know.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to begin pre-production in mid-September and shoot in October into December in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a full-on American.
Yeah, it's set in
production?
America. Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about the premise, or is it?
Well, I don't want to give away too much. It's about a single mother who has a dark past and it comes back to haunt her. But it's mostly a two-hander between her and her son.
Okay.
And we're casting the boy in America, in the States, and Andy Mathichek is starring in it. She was in those latest Halloween. Halloween film, and she's in the next two as well.
She's the daughter in it.
The daughter, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a good script, good strong, and I'm really going to push things visually with this one, and with sound as well. I look forward to it.
So, would you say which genre are you comfortable with? Do you think? I mean,
I want to make
everything.
I'm looking for at the moment. I kind of, because Never Grow Old was very ambitious, like a Western. I kind of want to make something. Always have something on the horizon, or that's going to be next. That's ambitious. That's big, you know. So I was looking for something in science fiction, or I'd love to do a good war film. I grew up in a household where my father was always watching classic genre films, and my uncle was always into, who lived with us, was always into Bergman, stuff like that. So I had a good education in film from an early age.
That was a nice, balanced upbringing.
Yeah, my father has an encyclopedic knowledge of character actors. Still has.
Oh yeah, they're the only actors for me are character actors.
Oh, I love character actors. That's why my next one is going to be filled with these great character actors. I wrote it like that's a road movie.
I've been binging on Preston Sturges there recently.
Oh, he's so good, that guy.
And just it's like.
Have you seen the Miracle of Morgan Creek?
It's been a long time. That's hard to get. It's a really tough one to get.
I found it on YouTube a while back. Yeah.
Did you? I'm going to look again, because it pops up and down.
Back yeah. But how did he get that made in 1946?
He was a master at it. If you look at even, was it the Palm Beach story?
Yeah.
I mean, it's full of innuendo.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic.
Lady Eve is my favourite.
That's
so good.
The dirtiest film ever made.
Barbara Stanwyck is so good.
Oh, I was blown away. I only saw that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've watched it about 3 times since.
Amazing.
And Henry Fonda is absolutely fantastic.
So funny, you know. He's a straight guy, you know. But my wife, she wasn't into that. Hadn't seen that many classic films, but she's a real big Barbara Stanwyck fan now. She just wants to devour everything she was in, you know. Because you just don't see, especially actresses like that anymore. You just you know.
I totally agree. What's the terrible thing about modern television is it doesn't have any history anymore.
No, everything's throwaway. Everything's the last year or something, you know.
Whereas with our generation, I know I'm older than you, but we're close enough that we can say, like, our generation, we had like 50, 60 years of filmmaking on our TV set in a week.
Yeah.
You could turn on Friday, you got Harold Lloyd.
Harold Lloyd show. Do you remember that?
Yeah, you got Harold Lloyd. You had and you had learning, and you had a thing called black and white.
Yeah.
I've heard there's kids going to film school now and they go, "Oh, it's much black and white."
Well, they don't teach anything, and I heard in some film schools before 1977, Star Wars, you know.
That's shocking. I think that's a real, because, like, again, the cultural learning from what output of cinema from any country, whether it be America or France or anywhere else, it says so much about a time and place. It's amazing to examine a country through its cinema culture.
That's why it's so exciting about Irish cinema, though, I think, and I thought that when I began. We don't really have that.
No.
We have Irish Americans coming over making interesting films, John Ford and stuff, and
I still think The Quiet Man is one of the great.
I love The Quiet Man. I think it's great. It's beautiful, poetic film, you know, and it's a dream. It's a fairy tale, but it's beautifully made and beautifully shot and acted. And
I think it gets confused by this notion of paddywhackery that we have that goes into other cultures' understanding of it. It gets tarred with that brush and it doesn't deserve it for a second. No. Because it's a deeper actual analysis of being Irish. And Ford was a good Irish American man. He really did embrace that Galway part of his whole.
He understood it.
Yeah. But we're getting off track. Look, I look forward to your next film.
Thanks, man.
And I hope people will go and see this film, and I look forward to it too.
Absolutely. And I go on to see it in the cinema because it needs to be seen in the cinema, I hope.
Well, people should go and see the cinema more anyway. Full stop.
Yeah, it's true.
Ivan, thank you so much for
Thanks,
coming in. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing more of your work.
Cheers, thanks.